Hallo en welkom bij aflevering 167 van de Honing Show. If you're an English listener and you are in the right place because this is the podcast episode with James. First, some Dutch announcements. Dit is de Honing Show waar je leert van ondernemers en ondernemende mensen die bijzondere resultaten bereiken, hoe ze hier gekomen zijn, wat ze doen, de strategie en hoe ze klanten krijgen. Mijn naam is Anne Hanning en ik deel mijn opgedane kennis, ervaringen en expertise met jou. Ik train en coach bedrijven bij het formuleren van een online strategie en de implementatie daarvan. Met name focus op wat het belangrijkste is wat je te doen en wie je belangrijkste klant is. Vandaag het gesprek waar ik al lang op zat te wachten met James Schramko. James is based in Sydney, Australia and has started, developed and sold multiple successful businesses. As a passionate father, investor, server, husband, coach, mentor, and lover of freedom, James excels in making the complex world of business simple so that your quality of life can improve. When James started online, he was a general manager working with Mercedes-Benz, commanding a large team of employees in a multi-million-dollar business by day and online marketeer by night. Since buying his first laptop in 2005, James has sold well over $10 million online. He's also the author of the book Work Less, Make More. During this episode, we talked about how James uses his favorite way of creating content to give him new clients continuously. Also how he added really short videos to his channels recently. With smart outsourcing, creating all his content costs James not much time and he loves doing it. James explains the importance of clear numbers to track the effectiveness of what you are doing in your business and how you can increase the results by improving just two things. James gave some background of the size of his businesses. Also, he gave me some background on the diversity of activities he's doing right now to be financially secure and why this is important to him. Don't forget to get his book, Work Less, Make More, on Amazon or via his website, superfastbusiness.com. And not just get it, of course, you want to read it as well. And not to forget it, he shares the secret weapon for high performance as an entrepreneur. Enjoy these great insights with James. Let's get started.
Welkom in de Erno Hanning Show. De podcast waarin je alles leert over de online sales funnel. Met succesvolle ondernemers en experts, praktische tips en tools die je helpen voor meer resultaat online. Dan nu, jouw online sales funnel expert, Erno Hanning.
Wil jij weten wat de 11 winstoptimalisatie-elementen zijn voor online marketing en verkoop? Vraag dan het gratis boekje aan. Dit doe je op winstoptimalisatieboekje.nl. De digitale versie krijg je helemaal gratis en voor het fysieke boekje betaal je alleen de verzendkosten. Vraag jouw boekje nu aan op winstoptimalisatieboekje.nl. Je leest het in één avond uit. winstoptimalisatieboekje.nl. Today I have my coach and I also have a entrepreneur that I like and follow and admire how he works, James Schramko. Welcome, James. It is so great to finally have you because I admire the way that you work, especially as an entrepreneur. You have had all these big businesses and you still have a big business. And at the same time, calmness is one of your features that you take time to for your family, for serving, and for your business. It's all very balanced as it sounds.
Yeah, and it wasn't accidental either. It's sort of come from quite some time of crafting the skill of designing your life around the things you want to do and creating a business that can actually fund that. So it has been a work in progress for sure.
And when I describe you to people, to give the listener an idea of your priorities, is the number one priority of you is to get your serve in each day.
That's true. I do plan my surf as a daily ritual. It's something that I find is grounds me and teaches me a lot about life, but also I think it's important, especially now, to have some time away from devices and to get back to, pre-technology era where we spent time in nature. And it is, certainly it's calming, but it is really good for your business as well, because you come back recharged and you have some great replenishment and somewhere to think about things, and you can get your focus back. Because I think people are probably a little bit overstimulated unless they're taking time out to do something that is both fun, but in my case it's also a great exercise because it's physically demanding.
And to give people an idea, how much time do you think you need to replenish every day?
Well, I've seen some of the statistics about, in the USA, for example, the average adult watches 6 hours of video a day. That's quite a lot of time staring at a little screen. And I think, certainly in my case, an hour a day or sometimes 2 hours is a really good routine. And I think also in other cultures, maybe even where you live, Erno, people are probably a little more outdoorsy and adventure inclined than some other cultures. But if you're not leaving the house on a daily basis, I would be concerned for sure. I think even 15 minutes to 30 minutes of just going for a walk. And if possible, and if it's climate acceptable, it's good to go barefoot as well to try and ground yourself to the earth a bit. Sounds a bit hippie when you think about it. But I notice now when I have to wear shoes a lot, like if I go to a wedding or I catch an airplane somewhere, I want to pick loose shoes so that they're not constricting my feet. I think they've become quite privileged and used to not being constrained.
That's an interesting point, because I do run a lot, but I don't run barefoot. And there is a, of course, a group of people that run barefoot, but that's a great, interesting point to look into. And I think you're right. People in the Netherlands are pretty outdoorsy. We bike a lot, we walk a lot, and it's a small country, so there's a lot of room to bike from one place to another, and you don't need to get the car. So to get back to you and your business, despite all the other things that you do in your business, because you have all your things either automated or filtered or outsourced, and that is also a very chosen way of working for you. But when you started, you came from selling cars, Mercedes cars, and you started working a lot of hours for your own.
I did. I was effectively working 2 jobs. At one point, I did the car dealership by day, where I was the general manager, and by night, I was building my online business. I was teaching myself how to build a website and then how to market things online, because I could see there was an opportunity there. I just didn't really understand how it was going to work. And the contrast was interesting, because by day I was the boss and everyone else was doing all the work, and by night I was the sole employee of my business doing absolutely everything. And I realized that was going to be a very slow progression. And as soon as I could understand that I needed to hire people to do some of the tasks that I was trying to do myself, that's when I was able to ramp up the size of my business at home. It started initially with just a couple of jobs. One of them was a support desk or a help desk, and the other job was writing articles or creating content. And I wasn't particularly interested in doing the help desk, and I wasn't particularly interested in writing articles, so it was an easy decision to make once I made it. And I never looked back. And I continue to have a small team now. Even now, I've got a little tiny team of 5 people who work in my business full time, but they're remotely located. And it allows me to focus on the things that I enjoy and that I'm good at. And I don't have to do the tasks that I'm not really that good at and I don't particularly enjoy.
And the 2 tasks that you mentioned, is that is that something that you believe is important as an entrepreneur, that those tasks are outsourced pretty soon when you start?
I think support is, because you can't really scale without good support. Whatever kind of business you have, you need to have good customer service. And if you have an online business like I do, you need to be able to help customers even with basic stuff that you might overlook easily, like someone who needs to change their credit card details, or they require access to log into something they purchased, or they've lost it, or they want to ask about your products or services to see if they would be a good fit for them. If you can answer those questions, you will continue to improve your income. If you can't answer them, you'll decline. So if they have to be done, then it comes down to, are you, the business owner, going to be doing that? Or could you hire someone for a fair wage to do that for you? And it turns out that support is a relatively easy role to hire for, and it's a great thing to let go of if you could focus on something at a higher level for your business. And the same might be true for articles, unless you're a brilliant writer and it's what you do, by all means. And a lot of the content that I create is usually coming from audio and being transcribed. So in effect, I'm responsible for some of our written content, but I never touched the keyboard. I didn't touch one of the letters. My team are taking that audio and turning it into text, sometimes using artificial intelligence robots to do that. And then they clean it up and format it and publish it. So the real key is to find out what you are really good at and just focus on that.
Yeah, and you have always been pretty clear of what you are very good at. So you've decided to get rid of the writing and get rid of the customer service. Customer service has probably nothing to do with what you're good at, but it's, like you said, is a very good task to outsource. But about the writing, I meet a lot of entrepreneurs that when I talk about them with creating content for your platform, is what is the thing that you can do best? Either you talk to a video, just record the audio, or just write. And a lot of people choose to write because to them it sounds like they can do easily, but audio is so much easier than that.
It's going to come down to personal preference, I think. Some people like making audio, some people like making videos. So there's plenty of video vloggers, I think they're called. Casey Neistat comes to mind. I think he likes recording and producing fantastic videos for YouTube. Yeah. And that's great. Other people prefer to take more of a back seat. They just like to hide in the early hours of the morning at their keyboard and type. More of that writer style. And it doesn't matter which one you are. It's just embrace that and work with it to your advantage. And don't try and be a vlogger if you prefer to write. And don't try and be a writer if you prefer to talk. In my case, I really don't mind talking. It seems to be the easiest medium. So I've had a podcast for quite some time now, 9 years or so, where I just talk and record it and publish that. And that podcast is the fuel for my business, and it's something I find comfortable enough to do for a long time. And I think if we target activities that we're both good at and could sustain for a long time, then that's a good recipe for longevity.
But you've been doing your podcast for 9 years. When did you see that clients came in through the podcast? Because it as you already mentioned often in your podcast episodes, that it sometimes people listen to like 1,000 hours of your podcast before they become a customer.
It really depends where that customer is at in what we might call the buying window. If someone's ready to buy and they come across your podcast and you're talking about the exact same problem that they have and you know how to solve it and they feel that they trust you, they will buy straight away. So some people will listen to one episode. I noticed people buying from my podcasts from the fairly early days. And often it would be when I was a guest on someone else's podcast where they might want to put an offer out to their audience for my product. The one that really kickstarted it for me was when I was a guest on a podcast called Small Business, Big Marketing, which is pretty big in Australia. And on that podcast, I offered a DVD set course. And straight after that podcast got published, we made a lot of sales. So I could see a direct correlation between that podcast and the sales. And that was the one that encouraged me to go and install my audio episodes into iTunes. I already had episodes, but I hadn't published them on iTunes until that event, because that was an iTunes podcast. And this was in 2010. So this was 8 years ago that I realized how powerful it is. And I'd already been publishing podcasts a year prior to that, but I hadn't put them on iTunes.
And now, recently you've added these 1 minute videos to your content. What does that do for you? How does this a great addition to your audio experience?
Well, they're very easy to make. So, like if you want to make video podcasts, like, 5, 10, 20 minutes, you need a lot of production values there. You need lighting, sound, equipment, editing, narratives and all that, special effects. It could be a big production. However, if you possess an iPhone or even a little instant camera of some kind, Canon or Sony or whatever, most people have this already. You don't need a high quality DSLR camera for this. Just an iPhone or even a GoPro, people are using these. If you could just film short videos for a minute, what you'll find is they are super easy to script and produce. I use a framework called TEA. T is for topic, E is for explain it, and A is answer it. So I introduce a topic, I explain what I'm talking about, and then I explain it for the audience. That's it. They're just little snack-sized contents. They're like eating a biscuit or a sweet. They're not a full meal, but they give people a taste for what you're about, and there's that constant awareness and repetition. So we're able to load one of these videos to our social media platforms each day, which means we're getting a high amount of exposure. We will get, I think at last count, I started doing this maybe 6 months ago, and I think we're getting about 10,000 views a month on our individual, if we collect all those little videos and add them all up across the platforms we put them, across Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram, and also on our own website, we're getting a good amount of views, and we're actually translating some of those into sales. It's just a nice way that you can make information, and it really only takes me about 8 minutes a week to make enough videos for a week. 5 1-minute videos takes me about 8 minutes on an iPhone, and there was no editing in the beginning. I think my team now might trim the start or the end, where I turn the camera on or off, optional. And they also, I think, put in a little bumper with our brand, but that's about it. And they go up to the social media stuff every day. And a 1-minute video will play on Instagram in full. So it's quite good to keep it short. And most people will watch a 1-minute video all the way through. Whereas if you start making longer videos, anything over 2 minutes, you'll have a big drop off. If you go to sort of 20 minutes, you'd be lucky to get 20% of people watch the whole thing, unless they're very interested in what you have to say.
And do you record them all at once?
I'm a bit spasmodic with my recording. I might do one if I'm out in the car and I have a great idea, or what I think is a great idea. I might just record it. I recorded one video yesterday because a situation happened, and I thought it'd be good to record. And then other times, I might be able to record 20 at once. A good way that I've found to record them is if you ever do a presentation for somebody, whether it's to a business group or at a live event or even a webinar, you can open up your slide deck that you would have used for that presentation, and you could make one video per point in your slide deck. So if you had 60 slides, you're potentially sitting on 50 videos there, 50 or 60 videos. If you take out the ones about you or whatever, you end up with about 50 content pieces. That's 50 1-minute videos. That's 10 work weeks of content. So, that's 2.5 months of content off one presentation. If you want to repurpose something that you probably already have, if you've been around business for any amount of time.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then if you do that, you have like a buffer so that your team have enough videos to post and share online, and you can just easily record new ones whenever you're ready.
Yeah, well, I have a mandate with my team. Just please let me know if we drop below 10 in our reserve. So it's like a fuel tank in a car. If we get low, they send me a low video level warning, and I give them some more. But at the moment, I think we have plenty. We probably have 20 there. So we've always got a couple of months worth of content ready to go. And it's not hard to create short videos. It's much harder to create long videos.
And when you look at the videos, you don't ever sell.
You don't really need to. It's not that type of video. It's not a sales video. It's just giving great information. I just want to service my market. I want people who are following my channels to get great value. In fact, I'd like them to get results before they even pay me. And if they're getting results before they pay me, that's a great demonstration of what might happen when they come on board my paid programs, because it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, so just a little going back to when you had a job. So what was the most important lessons that you learned there that you took with you when you went full-time with your business?
Well, there's so many lessons because I had a job for a long time. I had a job up until 2008, and I started in 1991. So I also felt like I was working dog years. Every year for a human, I felt like I was working 5. So in that, 27 years, something like that. I really felt like I worked 50. Because I was a top performer. I was reading a lot of business books. I was implementing the things I was learning from all different sources, and I was getting great results. I learned all about building systems. I learned about building teams. I learned about selling. I learned about customer service. I learned about accounting and reporting and financials. I learned about risk-taking, budgeting, competition, negotiation, like pretty much everything you could imagine, working for multinationals and working for small individual businesses. I mean, I worked for my grandfather at one point. It was just one guy I worked for. I was employee number 2. And then I worked for multinationals like General Motors and Mercedes-Benz and BMW and Vodafone. And they're very big companies, and they have a lot of red tape and bureaucracy to deal with, and hierarchy and politics. So, there's so many lessons. I wouldn't even know where to begin to answer that. But it's fair to say if that was the coal mine, then I took out the diamond from there and brought that to my own business. And that's the stuff I teach, the lessons from that.
So then you started your own business, and I have to tell you, for the listener, James wrote a book about this and about how to build a better business and and still have a great life. And you can read about his past and his the jobs he did and what he learned in the book, of course, as well. And the book is great because you have condensed a lot of lessons in that book. So it is a great read, and I think you should just buy it and read it. If one of the things that I find interesting and at the same time very difficult to push myself to is effective hourly rate in a book. Can you explain a little bit about what that means?
Sure, it's just a unit of measurement to give you an indication as to how effective the work you're doing is. And you get there by dividing your profit with the number of hours that you work to get the profit. And that's an amount per hour. So if you had a job, it would be your wage, which is what, that is your profit. Your wage is your profit before tax, divided by how many hours you worked. Most employees could tell you their wage. They might tell you they're on, and I'm not sure what unit of currency
Euro.
you have there. Euro, okay. So they might say they earn €8 an hour or €15 per hour. But most business owners could not tell you their hourly rate. And they probably can't tell you their hourly rate by product or service. So most entrepreneurs who I work with seem to have multiple businesses or multiple divisions within their business. It's an affliction that entrepreneurs have. One is never enough. And also, it's fair to say that one is quite dangerous. So within a business, if you had multiple divisions, so if you say let's say you're an expert author and you did keynote presentations, you might work out how much you get paid to do a paid keynote presentation and then divide it by the number of hours that it took you to deliver that, including the time to prepare it, the time to follow up, the time to invoice the customer, the time to travel, and the time to deliver it. That would be your effective hourly rate for that product. Versus writing a book. You could work out how much profit you made from the book versus how many hours it took for you to write it and to promote the book. You might find that one is far more valuable than the other, and if so, you could spend more time on that activity and increase your overall profit.
And then I think the important part here is that you say, okay, you want to measure it so you can see what is most profitable for you, so that you want to increase that and decrease the other things. But you also talk about reducing the working hours.
Yeah, well, the profit's one component and the hours is the other component. So you can either make more money or work less hours to improve your effective hourly rate, or do both. If you take a two-pronged approach at this, if you said, right, I'd like to make more profit and I'd like to work less hours, then that would increase your effective hourly rate dramatically. And I've seen people go from $7 an hour to $700 an hour by trimming off activities that are taking up a lot of their time but not paying them very well, and also finding ways to increase their profit per customer. That's another metric we might look at, so customer lifetime value. And by increasing the amount of money that the same customer would spend with you, you can increase the profit. If it took you the same number of hours to sell, then your effective hourly rate will go up.
Yeah, that sounds very logical, but I also know it. If you don't have help there, it is not easy to do.
Often we get blinded in our own business because we're inside it and we can't see it. And another thing that happens is people often get normalized by an industry. Certain industries do things certain ways, and it's hard to look outside that way. Anything outside that just seems unusual. For example, if you're a lawyer, most lawyers sell their time at X amount of euros per hour. And if you're a sign maker, maybe you sell signs by the sign. Maybe this sign costs that much and another sign costs that much. So different industries have different units of payment and ways that they do things. But you can actually take something from one industry and put it into another, and it can often give you an advantage.
If you look at your business now, what is, for people to get it clear, what is the most important thing that you do for your clients?
Well, for me, it's showing up and actually coaching them. That's a pretty active role that I have. That's where the value is in my business. It's my customers getting results. Because of my business model, which is a performance-based model on a recurring payment, if I can help a customer continue to get results, they will continue to be a customer. And that means I don't have to put much time or effort into acquiring customers, my time is spent retaining and serving my existing customers. That's a good portion of where my time goes. So my marketing efforts of recording a podcast and short videos is a small component of my overall time in a week.
And all your coaching is online?
It's all online, yes.
That is it's something that interested me a lot, long time, because I had the idea of being in the house so I can see my kids growing up. And right now I'm at a new phase, and I've noticed that I'm feeling very happy when I do live coaching. So for me, at the moment, I'm very interested in doing live coaching, either in person or in a group, like in a workshop coaching. And but for you, when you work with entrepreneurs all over the world, it's of course the most logical thing to do is to take that online.
It is, and I do have occasional live events, but they're fairly sparse in terms of frequency. I have an annual live event where I bring people together physically, usually in Sydney, and then I have later on in the year I have a mastermind in the Maldives, or Maldives, depending on how you pronounce that, where I bring together 10 entrepreneurs on a boat, and we live together for a week. And we do sporting activities as well, like surfing and scuba diving. And those are good as well. You get a very high level connection. But the trip into the Maldives is something I want to do. It's a holiday that I enjoy every year. And I'm just bringing along great people to do it with me. And the one in Sydney, it's really just a big get-together of my existing customers, some of whom have been with me for 9 years or so. They get together every year as like a reunion, and it's a really tremendous event. So there is those physical components, but everything else is virtual. And of course, having people in different time zones and countries, I'm getting a really diverse mix of characters in my coaching group who are doing things differently, approaching things differently. I've got genius programmers in Europe. I've got advertising experts in London. I've got web developers in America, and I've got e-commerce specialists in Australia. You know, when you blend that together, you get some pretty interesting data and some good things that you can share between the members.
Yeah, I have, when you talk about this, I have all these things I want to say, because the next event is in April in 2019, your live event in Sydney. But you also do these small get-togethers with people in various cities, or people, the clients come together without you as well.
Yeah, that the local meetup component of our community is organised by the members, for the members. And it's such a beautiful thing. I never really orchestrated this. I didn't say to them, you must meet. They came to me and they started organising meetups organically, and then I encouraged that and embraced it and made a special section of our community where they can organise these, and then I broadcast and boost it using a special tool that helps me geographically sort my customers. So if someone wants to have a London meetup, I can get in touch with everyone who's in London and say, hey, there's a meetup happening. And I do go and visit meetups. I go to Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, London, California. I've also done them in Dubai, Thailand. I think there's also, I have met people in Switzerland, Germany, France. If I'm somewhere in the world and my customers are there, I will go out of my way to have a coffee with them at least. And if there's more than a few, we'd make a meetup from it for sure.
Okay, so next time you're coming to Amsterdam, we'll make a meetup here.
Most definitely. I've got a few friends in Amsterdam, and it's one place I haven't been to yet, and it's definitely on my list. It's actually very, very high on my list of somewhere that I would like to visit.
Yeah. It is a great country, and Amsterdam, of course, is a beautiful city. But you have you visited very beautiful countries like Spain and so on?
Yeah, so I did Spain last year, and in fact, I went to 8 or 9 countries all in one go.
Yeah.
I went to Spain, Gibraltar, Turkey, Italy, Croatia, Greece, France, and the UK on that particular mission. And it was great. I love experiencing different cultures and learning about how other people live, and observing how business works in other countries is also very interesting. And I think more than ever we are global citizens, where the world is kind of pulled together a bit closer now because we're so interconnected. But even when I'm traveling, I still like to take time out. I'm currently in the Philippines as we're talking today, and I just went up to the surf region there with my team, and we all went surfing. So we had a little team get together, and it's just nice to take some time out from the work week and do something that I'm very familiar with and I enjoy. And I like surfing in all the different countries that I can. It gets a bit cold in some, but other ones it's great.
So when you take a trip like that, like to Europe, you did, is it a combination of work and holiday?
It really blends together for me for the last 10 years, Erno, because I don't know which bits are work and which bits are pleasure. I did speak at an event in Spain that was put on by Mind Valley, and I delivered a presentation on a topic of team building. That was one official component. Then there was a London meetup of my London customers, so that was another, I guess, work component. And then there was stuff in between.
But when you do those days, do you have also do you log into the coaching system like we do the coaching like each day, or do you also take breaks there?
No, I log in every day. I've pretty much logged in every day for 9 years, give or take if I'm on an aeroplane or there's just, if I'm at a conference or something, I'll still just use my mobile phone. The most I've ever gone without logging in might be a day or two, and that's usually when I just don't have internet. Like when I go to the Maldives and we're on a boat, the internet is not good. And there are days at a time where you could hardly get a signal. So, but all my customers know I'm there, and they forgive me. So I even put a note saying, "Listen, I'm on a boat this week. If you post something, I will answer every single question, certainly within 48 hours of arriving back to internet." So they know I'm clear with my communication about it. And I think they want me to have fun anyway, and they look forward to coming on that boat sometime.
And to give people an impression, how many clients are we talking about?
So in Superfast Business, there's around 500 active members, and in Silver Circle, there's around 30 active members.
Yeah, and Silver Circle, that is maybe it's better if you explain. So what's the difference? What's the level of Superfast Business and Silver Circle?
Superfast Business is suitable for someone who's already making around, let's say, 10,000 euros a year already with their business, and preferably interested in learning about online business, up to 400,000 or 500,000 euros. That place is going to be great. There's still members above that, but once you reach that sort of level, then you might be looking at Silver Circle. That's a 400,000 or 500,000 euro starting point and up. The average customer in there is probably making around 2.8 million euros a year. And they're working at a pretty high level. They already have a team. They already know what they're selling. They're good at it. They're just starting to run into trouble with, various aspects of their business, like strategy decisions, pricing, models, team. legal stuff, ownership, more complicated problems that I solve for them. So those people pay more and they get a higher level of access to me. I would be speaking to them individually and also in a group call each week.
And what I've also noticed that some of these members are coming into your podcast as well.
Yeah, I do get offered by the podcasting bookers. They're always sending me potential guests, but I'm not really interested in those guests. I don't necessarily want the guests who are doing the rounds and being on everyone's show with the same story. You know, like when there's a movie release and you can hear the same questions on every radio station and TV show. I'm interested in showcasing the results that my customers are getting. I think it's a powerful demonstration of what results are available to a prospect. It's also a good opportunity for my customer to get some great exposure. They will always make sales to people who are a good fit for what they sell, especially if they're in a business related to the sort of problems that my customers have. And so it's a good way that I can help them. It's a good way that I can help me. And we get really good feedback from the show, and it does cause sales. So far, so good.
Yeah, and also you know the person that you're interviewing pretty well from your coaching.
I know people better than they know themselves in many cases when it comes to their business, because when they come on board, I do a full forensic diagnostic of their business. It's like if you were to go and see a doctor and they do blood tests and x-rays and samples and all of that. They'll quickly know more than you know about your own health, and then they tell you about it and what you should do about it. That's pretty much the role that I would have in their business.
Okay. Let's get back to some of the parts of your book. One part that's really interesting, and I think it's connected, is personal effectiveness and your 80-20 squared rule.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that we're doing or think we need to do and the things sitting on our to-do list are just not that important. In fact, 20% of the things on our list will probably get us 80% of our results. So 80% of the things on that list are quite minor. And we should try and identify what they are and maybe just delete them. And then the interesting thing is, if you were to drill down a bit further, you'd find that 4% of the things on your list would actually get you 64% of your results. So just a very few things gets you the bulk of your outcomes. And that means we don't have to waste time thinking or worrying about all the things that we thought we did, because they're really just not that important. So I do encourage people to spend some time scoring or prioritizing the impact that the various things can have, because they're just not all equal. That's really the big point. All tasks are not equal. Some are more important than others. Focus on those ones.
And that it sounds so simple, and it's very hard to do when you're on your own.
Well, most things are hard before they're easy. I think the first step is to be aware of it, and the second step is to start. Just start and progress. I mean, that's why I wrote my book, Work Less, Make More, because I wanted to provide instructions. And even from the introduction chapter, I start giving people steps that they can take on how they could achieve this.
Yeah. If you before you said if you have one business, it is very dangerous. But do you have it's when you look at your business, it looks like you just have one business. And why is it dangerous?
Well, if you have one of something and it stops working, then you have nothing. You're back to zero. So that's why it's dangerous. You might look at my business, but it's probably not quite as simple as it looks from the outside. For example, I do have customers all around the world. So if an economy goes bad in America or the UK or Australia, that's not going to affect my entire business. I have multiple product lines within my business. I've got Superfast Business and Silver Circle, and frankly, either one of those would be enough for my living costs with a surplus. Two together is just very powerful. But behind the scenes, I also have income coming from other places, such as affiliated recommendations of software and things, which is a good solid income, which is a byproduct of my customer list. I've also got developments in place in non-coaching, non-business related assets that are building in value, that are pretty hands-off for me to run, that are saleable assets and also generate an income. And then aside from that, if you could actually keep some money from your business and after tax you've got a surplus, I would suggest people invest it wisely. So I spend some of my energy these days. In fact, I did something just before this call, was placing a trade between currencies, because you can magnify your income if you invest it wisely. And I have different investment asset classes that I focus on, and that's where some of my energy goes now. So that my goal is to make sure that I would never run out of money or need to work again if I decided to just stop tomorrow.
This brings a number of questions again to my head. Where did this feeling come from that you don't want to run out of money anytime?
That comes from when I was a kid. My parents pretty much lost all their money, and it affected me quite deeply. And from that point, I think I was about 18 or 19, I went from a feeling of comfort, thinking we were reasonably wealthy, to a feeling of discomfort and realizing that I had to do this myself. And I've spent the last 28 years making sure that I am financially comfortable.
Yeah. And when you look at your future, I also, for example, watched Dan Sullivan, and you probably, if I'm right, you know him as well, from Strategic Coach, and he talks, and he's 74 now, and he's coaching, and he's adding new levels to his coaching business, and he's still finding always every time to challenge himself and find new levels that he can grow to. How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself working forever?
Well, my grandfather did until the day he died. Dan Sullivan sounds like he really enjoys what he does. I'm definitely interested. I can't imagine I would just switch off. I mean, I dismiss the notion of we get to 65 and then we just stop going into our 9-to-5 job, and then we sit at home in a deck chair doing I'm not sure what. I'll always be active. I'm very interested and keen. I can see myself surfing every day for a long time. That's not going to stop anytime soon. And I imagine that I'll continue at the very minimum being interested in investments, and you could call that business if you want. Whether I actively speak with customers, I don't think so in the long term. I think I'll wind back my active coaching capacity and focus more on revenue share deals and semi-active commitments to coaching. And just, I do like business building. I like building businesses and selling them. I've done it a few times now, and I'm continuing to do that. I'm building assets to sell because I think that's a great way to keep active and interested.
And if I'm right, one of the things that you're building right now is a platform about surfboards and surfing.
Yeah, we have a very active website in the surfing market, and we also in other markets now, and that produces revenue for us. And it's also, I believe, that market will be a good market in the future because of the innovation coming to that market that was missing before. And it's also my passion. I really enjoy it. It's something I can happily go and take some pictures of a surfboard to send to my team to publish on our site, and visit surf locations and review them, etc. Is something I'm really interested. In fact, I would do it anyway. So the fact that I get paid for it as well is a bonus.
And again, there your team does a lot of the lifting for you.
Yes, they do almost all of the lifting. That entire project was driven by them for the first 3 years. I've only recently got involved by taking some pictures and interviewing some professionals and adding some content. If I buy a surfboard, I might give them my thoughts about it, and they create editorial content around that.
Wow. If you have, for the entrepreneurs that is listening right now, one tip that they could implement fast and that will give them great result, what would be your number one tip?
I would say look through your existing customer base and see where the opportunities are to find more of your best customers, or to provide a higher level solution to your existing customer base. That is really the easy win. They're so easy for you to contact. They already trust you and like you, and they would probably buy more if you were to make them an offer.
Simple. If I'm right, if you are also a very, you read a lot of books, let's put it that way. What is the book that you've read lately that you advise people to read?
Well, the last book I advised someone to read was called The Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli.
Okay, that's a book I haven't heard of. That is good. I love it.
Yeah, I know everyone spouts off their usual favourites, but I probably read different things to other people.
No, I know that from all the podcast episodes that you do and all the interviews that you are on other people's podcasts, that you have a different way of looking at things and taking care of yourself, and calmness and balance is one of the things that I find very interesting in the way that you look. For example, the importance of sleep is something you talk about quite often.
I was just reading a National Geographic special on sleep in the van ride up to the surf region, and it is amazing. It's just it is the secret performance weapon available to everyone if they want to tap into it. Just get the proper amount of sleep, and you can be the high performance version of yourself that you've been missing out on. That's such an easy thing to access, but no one seems to be doing it.
How much sleep do you get?
I would generally get 8 hours. Plus, I like my sleep. I usually sleep sometime around 10 or 11 at night to 6 or 7 in the morning.
Yeah, I think my sleep is important too. It's somewhere between 7 and 8 hours, depending on what's going on. James, where can people find you the best? Where should they want to meet you?
Well, if you like this sort of information, I would definitely check out my book on Amazon. But you can get to there from my website, superfastbusiness.com. It lists my podcast. It has the book there on the homepage. You can get Work Less, Make More. And at least tune into some podcasts and get a feel for what we're all about. And I also want to say thanks for the opportunity to come on and share some ideas, Erno. I appreciate you taking the valuable time to put this sort of show together for your audience.
It's been a pleasure to have you, and it was a dream that I had for a long time, and I don't know, somehow I extend the feeling of asking you But anyway, when I asked you, you just happily said yes, and it was really good for me, and I loved having you on the show to give the people that listen to my show the opportunity to get to know you, because I think that you are an extraordinary entrepreneur and also a coach that helps entrepreneurs to, to work smarter and more intelligent about their business. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you.
Dat was het gave gesprek met James. Je vindt de namen en links die we noemen in het artikel dat bij deze uitzending hoort. Ga daarvoor naar ernohanning.nl/show 167. Vergeet niet te abonneren op de Erno Show via iTunes, Stitcher of Soundcloud. Als je vragen hebt, wil je weten hoe deze podcast werkt? Het meest eenvoudige wat je kunt doen is gewoon de app op je telefoon waarmee je podcast luistert. Zoeken naar de Erno Show, want hij staat eigenlijk in elke app. En klik op het plusje, zodat je elke keer automatisch de nieuwste aflevering krijgt. Heb je vragen, opmerkingen of reactie over deze aflevering met James of een andere opmerking over de podcast? Stuur me dan een e-mail op podcast@ernohanning.nl. Ik hoor super graag van jou. Dankjewel en tot de volgende.
Dankjewel voor het luisteren naar de Erno Hanning Show op ernohanning.nl.